I'm seeing a lot of YouTubers out there making these crazy clickbait headlines for Concord, like, oh, Concord is so bad, it's terrible, it's worse than we thought it was. And I'm over here like, no, this is exactly as bad as we thought it was going to be. If you've been following the story of Concord all along, there's absolutely nothing surprising about this embarrassing launch. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. Concord has launched to a paltry maximum amount of players on launch day of 600 and change on Steam. Not 600,000, 600 people. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for the full article discussing how Concord is costing Sony $214,285.71 per person playing on Steam. And that's actually giving it the benefit of the doubt that there's 700 people, but it's even less than that. But we're not taking into account they're paying $39.99 for it, and there's a lot of small math going into it. But grand scheme, big picture, this is one of the biggest, most spectacular flops in modern gaming history. Speaking of modern, where the hell is that audience? Learning the Law said on Twitter, Concord, a video game estimated to cost between $50 million and $150 million to develop, really went into a meeting and said, yes, this will sell our game. Let that sink in. And he gives a few options here as to how that could be, because I'm of the same mindset. I should have a tinfoil hat here to put on, because I'm always thinking of conspiracy theories, because these days it feels like they're more likely than not to be true. He gives option A, money laundering, B, government funded game, and C, pure insanity in Sony Californian headquarters. And I saw people in the replies being like, D, all the above, which could be as well. But this is so insanely ridiculous. The game itself isn't terrible. It's serviceable. Most people playing it are giving it like a 7, 7.5. Hell, I've even seen some people say it's upwards of almost an 8. It's that good as far as a hero shooter, online multiplayer game, team squad shooter game. It's awesome. But it costs $40. In a landscape of games that are all free to play, that are established brands, that have an audience already, that are, quite frankly, better looking games than this. And for those of you that are paying attention to these paltry numbers and a ridiculous comparison between the all-time peak of, 697 players on Concord, compared to Black Myth Wukong stating that they had 3 million players playing it at once and selling a total of over 10 million units. But then again, the developers of it, Game Science, decided they didn't want to be woke with their game and didn't want to involve any kind of sweet baby inks or Western ideologies forcing DEI agendas on games. And, well, the gamers showed up. Will these game companies learn and take a lesson from the history they just saw transpire right now? I wouldn't hold my breath. Anyways, PC Gamer had an interview with the development team talking about the launch day and the reflection of, get this, 8 years of development time. And for those of you who are new to the channel, I've covered Firewalk Studios in great detail. It's a deep dive. I've made 3 videos talking about not just one of the lead developers, but also one of the artists there, and then the overall atmosphere, the work environment, the HR policies, just how completely back-ass broken woke the agenda is at this company, and how that's exactly why this company is going to fail. I can't help but keep interjecting these comparisons because it's just too ridiculous to ignore. Crusher Bad 64 shared with me on Twitter, you know it's bad when even Redfall has more players. The all-time peak 15 months ago for Redfall, a terrible game by almost all accounts, and that had an all-time peak of 6,124 players on Steam, compared to Concord, which this isn't updated, but it's closer to 700. Yikes! So putting that information together, 8 years of working on this game for upwards of $150 million. You want to divide the, we'll say, 700 people playing this on launch day into $150 million. And that's how I got the number of $214,285.71 per person on Steam. Yes, obviously it doesn't include Sony PlayStation 5 players and all the people playing on that, all dozens of them over there. I get it. The point is, it is a massive flop no matter how you slice it. In the interview from PC Gamer, lead developer Mark Wanewski said, "Concord has so much humanity and depth to it. I really hope people give it a shot." Which is fair. You know, he wants to pump up his game. He's excited about launch day, spending the past 8 years putting it together. I mean, that's a lot of time in somebody's life to contribute to a single game. Like, this is kind of like one would say their life's work. 8 years of development time for this game to come out. And he has high hopes for it. Because, let's be honest, these people are all in echo chambers and they forget that there's this thing called reality hitting them right in the face. He went on to say, "I'm insanely proud of the game. We're strapped in and ready to push it for years to come." Okay, right there, when the lead developer is saying we're ready to push this game for years to come, two things come to mind. One, he's completely out of touch and forgot his crazy pills, because that's absolutely insane for a game that has less than 700 people on Steam playing it concurrently on launch day. But two, he has to pretend that he's going to have a job there for years to come, because that's what these live service games are intended to do. And if you don't have that, you don't have a job. So of course he's going to pretend like everything's hunky-dory, no matter how bad the numbers look. And of course we have game journals like Paul Tassi coping and seething to the max, where he says he's trying to play Concord and he's not going to comment on the wait time. But then he comments by saying, implying that, yeah, he's waiting a while to play this game. And then he has the ultimate subsequent tweet where he was coping and seething like you read about, where he said he's just going to block anyone who is talking about DEI and Sweet Baby Inc. because he wants to create the biggest echo chamber possible, because he's tired of dealing with rational gamers. The game's an overpriced hero shooter entering an already oversaturated market with little to distinguish itself from countless other titles. The critical reception was lukewarm at best, with many pointing out the lackluster gameplay. In reality, the game is failing due to costing $39.99 for what amounts to become an overly woke Overwatch game that you can get for free somewhere else that doesn't even have nearly this amount of wokeness in it. Sony's decision to back Concord so heavily raises questions about the company's strategy from the beginning. The writing was on the wall from Jump Street. I can't help but wonder if there was some underlying agenda or conspiracy theory to push this particular set of woke values regardless of any financial outcome. Given the catastrophic financial return thus far on Sony's massive investment, we could potentially conclude that pushing a woke agenda without caring about losing money seems as plausible as any other strategy considering the outcome, assuming they were making up these lost funds from some sort of ulterior method. Government funding, tax loss write-offs, like there's a number of things you can come up with that make just as much sense as going full bore with a woke agenda and an echo chamber, spending upwards of $150 million on what amounts to be a game that nobody wants to play. Watching the dust settle on launch day for this epic gaming disaster of colossal proportions, the financial repercussions of Sony are going to be immense. The game will most certainly be going for the PS Plus service free shortly after, with a free for everyone following after that, I'd imagine. If they want this to have any audience and chance whatsoever, it has to be free. But that's the same thing I've been saying since 3 months ago when I first found out this was going to cost $40 and people were supposedly supposed to pre-order it back then. I laughed at that. I'm like, no, it has to go free to play. It seems like it's making the same mistake that game Battleborn made, where it cost all this money at the beginning and nobody played it and then eventually just went free to play. It's almost like the executives over at Sony have no experience in the video game industry and don't understand that stuff like this has happened before. And if you understood history, you wouldn't have to repeat it yourself. Ultimately, it's not just a failure, it's a good reminder about the dangers of losing touch with your audience in pursuit of any kind of ideological goals. As it stands, Concord is going to go down in history as what not to do. Hell, it may not even make it to next Tuesday, much less next year. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, please consider hitting that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.